This morning, we have a really special guest. He's a really special guest because he sits among you every week. Maranatha is 38 years old, and he's been attending for about 37 and a half of those years. He has done so many things here, from teaching multiple Sunday school classes, being the first Sunday school superintendent. There's just all sorts of things that he has done. Been around, like I said, for 37 and a half years. All of his success is due to his wife. That's right. That's right. He has a great testimony as far as, I love, if you ever get a chance to, once you see him, you're going to know who he is. If you see him in the lobby in coming days, just ask him to share briefly his testimony, how he came to the Lord. I think it's a marvelous story of just God's incredible divine presence in somebody's life. And bring him saved. And he got saved. I mean, radical life change, like I think it should be. He was a Minnesota State Patrol officer, and his nickname was Dr. Death. I'm telling you the truth, Dr. Death. He competed in a lot of karate, self-defense type stuff for the Minnesota State Patrol. And then he became a Christian. Then he got the nickname Dr. Life, because he turned into one of these religious people. He's done all kinds of accomplishments in the State Patrol that I won't go through and mention, except for to mention this. One year, he was elected the State Employee of the Year. Pretty big accomplishment. He sits among you every week. He went on to pursue and get his master's in family therapy and counseling. Then he got his doctorate in Christian education. And he has his own practice as a clinical counselor, clinician, and then also on staff here at Maranatha, down the hall, right across from mine. He's there because I need it often. Would you give a really warm welcome to Dr. Dave Anderson? Praise God. Dr. Life. Praise God. Woo-hoo. Welcome. Have fun.
Thank you. I'm going to try. Well, I'm kind of at a little disadvantage because usually when I would speak, by the way, I'm not a preacher, I'm a teacher. You can find that out very quickly. But I used to be able to give presentations in colleges and whatever, and I used to be able to offer the audiences, if they laughed at me, these terrible jokes that I'm going to tell you, and if I got some good positive feedback, I would have the ushers give them some free radar passes. But I'm not a state trooper anymore, so I don't have any. So you're going to have to ask the troopers that have them. In fact, if the truth had been known, I was a young man as a state trooper, and Pastor Mike was a little young, I wasted every month radar passes on the boss, Pastor Mike, So. Well, today we're going to talk about a few things. And again, I'm not a preacher. In fact, my wife is great at giving me advice. We've been running around together for about 50 years. And she said, I don't want you to do these two things. The first is, I don't want you to sing. Dave, that's not your wheelhouse. In fact, one day after worship service one day, several years ago, I go to sit down, she goes, hey, Dave, what's up? Would you ever consider lip syncing during worship service? So my wife's, I've been trying to sit on that wise chair that's going to be over here, by the way, because we're going to talk about being wise in a foolish world, and that she's been very outspoken with me. And she gave me this other thing. She said, like, Pastor Mike, you're not a preacher or whatever, don't do his signature moves. Like, you really think you're rocking? Like, sometimes at home, I just might do a little move. And she says, because there's going to be a lot of people with cell phones that are out there, and they might mistake your signature dance move as a seizure and call 911. So that's an inclination about my wife. So here's the thing. You find out that I just love to teach, and I'm not the best, but I do what I think I need to do. And I'm here. Let me tell you about how this came about. Is that about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, on a Tuesday, I work Tuesdays here around because I'm retiring a little bit. I'm getting old, as you can see. And I hear this on my office door, and my office is right across the hallway from Pastor Mike. Because a long time ago, he said, when we were in the old building, he said, Dave, I think I'm going to take you with you, but here's the deal. You have to have the office across the hall from me because at times you're a loose cannon and you're going to need supervision. So he comes, he knocks on my door, and he goes, hey, Putz. I remember we have this long relationship. He's very respectful. We kid each other. I've kidded him about his hair often, trust me. Anyway, he was telling me, what are you doing on the 26th of January? I said, well, I'm not sure. And he said, be at church at 7:30 and look kind of nice. And I go, and he says, you have to remember, I've known you since, 1980? And remember all those things that, I know of you and your wife and your family? They could show up on the Tron someday. And I said, I'll be there. I'll be there. So I've only had like a couple hours to kind of prepare for this, so we're going to kind of get through there. Here's the deal I want to remind you of. Just relax. For those of you that are visitors, just know that I'm not the pastor here. Pastor Mike is the pastor, the preacher. He'll be up next week, right? Yep, and he'll have a good message, trust me. And there's no pressure that if you don't listen to the suggestions that I might have, Pastor Mike is not going to saddle up the motorcycle group in the church and go either TP your lawn in spring or tear up all the grass with their motorcycle. Just relax. Just make this time between you and God as I issue some challenges, because they're for me as well. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about culture change. I'm going to spend the first maybe 8 minutes or so talking about the culture changes that you all grew up in, that I grew up in, and I'm going to surprise you because I'm like 53 years old. Well, hopefully. Yeah, we're going to talk about this culture change, spend a little time on it, and then we're going to talk about Solomon because we want to talk about being wise. And Solomon had the answer for us in today's culture. And all along history, he's got the answer. We're going to talk about 4 types of people: how they think, how they act, and is there really a cure? And I have a recommendation for a tattoo, if you can believe it. And here's the thing, a disclaimer. I am tattoo-less. For that many years, living in this environment with no tattoos, pretty decent. And I don't have a motorcycle anymore. I can remember I had to turn in my motorcycle, first down payment on a house. Haven't gotten around to getting another one. So here's another thing, that you can hang around here with no tattoos and no motorcycles and come and live spiritually. So, and then I have a challenge for you, probably several of them. So we talked a little bit about the culture. The world has and is continually changing. It's rapidly changing. And I'm kind of trying to fight the revolution. I'm still in a flip phone. And I'm losing that kind of culture, but nonetheless, I'm living fine. But let's take a look down memory lane a bit. First, we survived being born to mothers who smoked and or drank while they carried us. They took aspirin and ate blue cheese dressing, tuna from a can, and did not get tested for diabetes. Then after that trauma, our baby cribs were covered with bright-colored lead-based paint. We had no child-proof lids on medicine bottles, doors, or cabinets. And when we rode our bikes, we had no helmets, not to mention the risks we took hitchhiking. As children, we would ride in cars with no seatbelts or airbags. Riding in the back of a pickup on a warm day was almost a special treat. We drank water from a garden hose and not from a bottle. We shared one soft drink with 4 friends from one bottle, and no one actually died from this. Got sick sometimes. We ate cupcakes, white bread, real butter, and drank soda pop with sugar in it. But we weren't overweight because we were always playing outside. We did not have PlayStations, Nintendos, Xboxes, no video games at all, no 400 channels on cable, no videotape movies, no surround sound, no cell phones, no personal computers, no internet chat rooms. We had friends and we went outside and found them. We ate worms, particularly my wife. I'm gonna get even. And mud pies made from dirt, and the worms did not live in us forever. We were given BB guns for our 10th birthdays, made up games with sticks and tennis balls. And although we were told it would happen, we did not put out too many eyes. Bottom line, that we had freedom, failure, success, and responsibility, and we learned how to deal with it all. So there's things in that environment that were very good. And I wish we could go back to some of those. But there are things that were very foolish behaviors as well that were commonplace in that generation. And I liked the idea that they cleaned up dietary, health standards, seatbelt use, wearing helmets, hitchhiking, riding in the back of pickup trucks. What we need to do, because we want to be living wise in a foolish world, we want to look at the culture that we're in. What do we need to do to remain wise? What are we growing up today in today's culture that we need to be careful of? The professionals are not mincing any words. They're shouting and screaming to us about what in the culture of today do we need to be aware of. Now, many of these professionals, they're not Christians. It doesn't make any difference. That if we're pursuing wisdom, wisdom will be there. It might come through different vehicles of life. But the mental health professionals, the medical professionals, they're all screaming about the significant level of concern that they have for children, teenagers, for youth, for that branch of society. Because the concern is this: it's depression, it's anxiety that our youth are suffering, with accompanying panic attacks. There's suicidal ideation that's very high. We know suicidal kind of completions that's been running rampant for a while. So the mental health communities for the last 15 years have really been sounding the alarm on these two things. Social media and isolation are the two biggest things. Again, we're not going to get rid of the social media or some of the isolation, but those are the topics that we need to work on as assiduously or as powerful as we can, and we need to have that before us and just keep working for it, for the change. Research 2013 and 2016, the research came from taking 8th graders and 10th graders, and what they did is they correlated teen activities, like in other words, what are teens doing now in our culture that's leading to happiness? And on the contrary, what are teenagers in our society doing activity-wise that's leading them to unhappiness and to break out into mental health issues? It's the same thing with the correlation on screen time. Screen time is a big thing when it comes to our happiness. And screen time is just anything with a screen. Even my flip phone has a screen, so we need to pay attention to that. So here's the graph, and then we're going to move on. But this is extremely important, I think. The green bars across the top describe the good activities in these 8th to 10th graders. Now notice how it has to do with group activities or face-to-face activities. This is green, it's good. So first of all, one thing is sleep. Our teenagers aren't getting the sleep they should. That's the longest green bar. Then it's sports or exercise, in-person social interaction. It's a great thing. It's a great thing for all of us, not just teenagers. Volunteer work, going to movies, religious services, TV news. You can read down the list. The red, the bad screen time or non-screen time, and time activities. If you just peruse and kind of go down that list, you can see video chat, testing, leisure time, alone, not face-to-face, social media, big red bar, computer games. Because the computer games and those things that they play on the PlayStations and whatever, Fortnite, I mean, where you might be having a game with someone out of state, there's no face-to-face thing kind of going on. And listening to music. Listening to music gets a red bar. I think it's a big red bar, which is bad for our teenagers, because I think this, what our teenagers do in this day and age, they put their buds in. You see this, I better take these buds mean something else. They're earbuds. They stick them in their ears to listen to their music, and they go to their bedrooms. They isolate themselves. They're not out rocking and rolling with everyone. Because I can remember back in the day with Mary Ann, when I first found out she only lived 3 miles from me, I thought I died and went to heaven. And so what happened back in the days, there's the Beatles, Nirvana, the Eagles, these kind of things. So when the Beatles songs came out, little coveys of teenagers would come together and they just play that record, and play that record, and play that record. And I worked my way into Mary Ann's group. And she would be playing those records, and you'd play them in a group till they memorized them. And I'd always be sitting there trying to isolate my wife, because I didn't want to be just in the top 10. I wanted to be the number 1. So I'd say, well, if you ever decide that you might want to start dating some of us hooligans, think about this, consider this, dating your next guy alphabetically order, like A for Anderson. And man, let me tell you, it didn't work, but I tried and I never gave up on her. and I finally caught her, and we've been together pushing 50 years. So here's a couple of little things that I want to share with you about what the culture is really saying. By 2012, 75% of Americans owned smartphones. Psychology Today is a magazine with about 4 million readers that read it. And they're a culmination of psychologists, some attorneys, and social workers, and they all publish kinds of things. Something that it's good to read, even though it comes from not from a Christian perspective. If we have a biblical worldview, we can certainly just look through the research. By far, the greatest changes in teens' day-to-day lives between 2011 and 2015 was the spread of smartphones and the growth of social media. Nothing else came close. A likely explanation could be the concurrent rise in social media. In addition to being less likely to interact face-to-face, those who use social media frequently are also more likely to be involved with cyberbullying, which has been linked to depression, self-harm, and suicidal thoughts. The American Journal of Managed Care. Again, they're secular institutions, but we want to be wise. We don't care how the truth comes, the information comes. We want to make a wise decision, screen through it. The increase in adolescent major depressive disorder began after 2011, concurrent with the increased ownership of smartphones. And the concomitant just means at the same time, increase in digital media into this age group. Canada study. Kids with more than 2 hours a day of screen time. That's any screen there is, TV, computer, laptop, whatever it might be. By the age of 5, are almost 8 times more likely to meet the criteria for ADD, ADHD than youngsters who spend less than 30 minutes a day looking at a screen. So social media, and then we're going to move on and talk about the 4 people that Solomon talked about. Social media, defined as the forms of electronic communication such as websites or social networking and microblogging through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. So that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram. You know the gamut of them. But here's the thing, in this social media culture that we have, and again, I don't want to throw it away. There's not things that I want to go back to. But the things we need to do is like manage the risk. We want to be wise in our parenting. We want to be wise as adults. As how much screen time should we be using as adults? The whole gamut, and the research is there. Because the culture is going to provide an atmosphere for us to isolate. That's the worst thing we can do. Homework, I remember I'm a teacher, so I'm going to give you some homework. You do it, it's up to you. But all you would have to do would be Google screen time recommendations. It'll pop up from birth, everything along the lifespan to adults. And it's amazing, like what science has done in this way of communicating face-to-face. We're losing the face-to-face in culture. There's nothing bad about all of us coming here. In fact, actually, the way the brain works, the brain fires, it wires, and it forms circuits. And they've done all this research on like a mom that takes her baby. What the heck? Sometimes I just get that the synapses that take place in that brain fires, wires, form circuits. That the quality of that relationship and that face-to-face interaction is so much different than a interaction on the internet, or if you would put a screen in front of this baby and go through Larva or Paw Patrol, whatever those things, night and day difference. That's why when you and I come here in corporate worship, in fact, it was kind of a shock. I usually look at the back of your head back there, and I see all live with nice faces, and you smile. And if you do good and laugh at some more jokes, I'll try to resurrect you some free radar passes, get them mailed out to you. So, but we all know as Christians that perhaps our spiritual father knew it best. Do not forsake the fellowship of the saints as couples, families, and collectively in face-to-face relationships. I mean, many times even, like when we go out to eat, I mean, sometimes I do because I'm old, I forget my flip phone at home. But you know, it's kind of a good thing not to even have it. When you go out to eat as adults, maybe all you guys, if you're on a work break or whatever, you throw those screens middle of the phone, middle of the table, unless you're on call, and you don't have your cell phones. And the one person that picks up that cell phone picks up the bill for you at the restaurant. I mean, I'm not sure, but you want to strategically place in your mind about what are we going to do about that screen time? And it's going to be very explicit what these professionals have to say, like birth to 2, it's about nil. It'll say once in a while if you want to do maybe a face-to-face, or what do they call that? FaceTime. Thank you. It's tough for the old guy thinking about anything but a flip phone. Once in a while, they could with grandma or grandpa, but it's not often. So then here's the thing, the wisdom is there for this age, the professionals are worried about. You just have to do some homework and then you decide. If you should only be doing X amount of FaceTime as an adult, you need to make a decision. And just know this, that you reap what you sow. And we want to be on that wise chair the best we can. So I'm off that one for a while. Put me behind. So here's the bad thing about me. If I know I'm behind, I'm going to start talking faster and faster, then we're in trouble. So, all right, so if you're in generation X, Y, Z, or if you're a silent generation, or if you're a baby boomer, it really doesn't make any difference. I've noticed I highlighted the baby boomers in red because I think baby boomers rock. I knew there'd be a few. Notice I'm not dancing or singing, Maris. How am I doing? Because he threatened, you're on the couch. So regardless of what generation that we come from, we can agree our culture has and is continually growing. And Americans think, work, love, play, vote, and we all learn differently. So, how do we live wisely in a foolish world? I couldn't help but to go to this guy by the name of Solomon. So we know this from Solomon. Solomon was the 3rd king of Israel. He was the 17th son of David's 19 sons. So can you imagine, the cadre of people that you have over for holidays? Could you imagine his family system? It'd be many goats, many sheep, whatever. There'd be quite the gathering. And he was 20 years old when he was appointed king. And oftentimes when I read scripture, I look at, how about if I was him? And listen to what he had to say. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. For I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. Here's what he asked. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and discern between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? Now, if I were 20 years old in that prayer, I'd be, God, give me some gold. I want you to slip me a little silver on the side, if you will. I'd want long life, but I probably would want the heads of my enemies that were against me. So this is quite the unique man, and God had his hand on him. This is what God had to say. 1 Kings 3:12. Behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given you thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, either after thee shall any rise like unto you. He was kind of one of a kind. As a very young man, God had his hand on him when it comes to that idea of wisdom. Neighboring kings would send people to Solomon all the time. I just imagine them all there every day, just giving his wisdom to very difficult decisions that people had in their life. He drafted Ecclesiastic, Proverbs, Song of Solomon, accredited for 3,000 Proverbs, 1,005 songs. So he's quite the man. So he's the one that came up with 4 types of people. And we're going to talk about those today. We know that there's a wise person there. It's the seat we want to strive for. There's 3 other ones. We're going to talk about their thoughts. What's the narrative going on in each one of their minds as they sit in that chair? What's their behaviors? What do they really do? And is there a cure? And this is what I want you to think about today. There's several things I want you to think about. This is one. And no one knows I'm not a prophet. Remember, I was a government employee for 30 years. That I'm not going to know if God's working in your heart, where there might be a big letter on your forehead or anything like that, just between you and God, I want you to introspect and think about what chair that you might be on, and we'll go from there. First chair is this. And let me give a disclaimer that some of these words that are on the chair, I had nothing to do with making them up. In fact, my wife kind of knows this story about the 4 chairs. And on a bad day, when I haven't done that honey-do list or whatever, she'll say things like, Dave, I think in that presentation you should put up a 5th chair. Yeah? And entitle it, The Putz. And you need to sit there. So, yeah, Mayor's, I'm going to get even. All right, the simple person. So the simple person is this. They're naive and clueless, and that's not dissing them. I mean, they're generally young people. So I went back to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift in 2006, lyrics of her song, when you're 15 and somebody says they love you, you're going to believe them. Does that mean you're sitting in that chair and you're dumb or you're stupid? No. You're just naive in that you're lacking experience down this path of life. And that's where we get in trouble sometimes when we talk to people that are simple, like our kids. That we know what the path is going to be offering down the line because we're old. And we just need to be realistic about where they are and how we parent them and the things that we do. We need to be realistic about every chair that people sit in, especially our kids. And here's a simple story about a young man. I don't have time to read the whole thing. It's Proverbs 7, 6 through 27. All I can say is that you read all these verses, 20 verses, wherever they are. It's about a simple man. And this is the way wisdom was saying that they think. That he's thinking that he's in for a good time, but he meets this woman that's dressed like a harlot and she seduces him. And it's like if you were in a movie theater watching this drama take place, you'd be just scratching. I know Marianne would be going, she might even stand up in the movie theater and go, stop, don't go there, don't do it. She'd be yelling to this guy that's going to be making this crazy decision, wrong decision. Which says, with her much fair speech, she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips, she forced him. Which is a very interesting statement. I can't go down that rabbit hole. We went after her straightway as the ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird goes to the snare, and knows not that this is for his life. The simple. This is the way they respond if you're sitting in that chair. Nothing is going to happen. Oh, I can handle it. Or you're just overreacting. Again, think if you're 15, someone tells you they love you, you're going to believe them. Let me give you a little sidebar. This was a female that wrote the lyrics. So let me tell you gals that are young, that are 15 and 16, let me just give you a heads up. If some guy says that he loves you, don't believe him. He's lying. Run. Usually that age bracket, if their lips are moving, they are lying. And I might be a tad biased because we've raised 5 biological children. I might side on the side of femininity. In fact, there are some days in my house, to be honest, 5 daughters and my wife, 6 against 1. There are some days in a weak moment I've wonder if I ever had any testosterone left. Yeah, well, we manage. They sit in that chair and they make these decisions not because they're bad or they're stupid. They just lack experience. Not having financial relationship or addiction pressures. They're just simple. But here's the thing for youth. And many times, again, that there's no variable on any of the age, whatever seat you might sit on, even though they're generally, under the age of 25, you can be stuck. For example, if you're stuck relationship-wise, you could be 45 sitting in that chair, 50 years old sitting in that chair. And here's the thing, if you keep believing these guys that tell you that they love you, and they're not nice guys, you're going to keep being recycled through and through and through. They're just a different kind of guy. And if you need any help getting through that, if you find that you're recycling some things, there's a way to move over to the wise chair. And it's easy to get there. No, I shouldn't say that. The formula is easy to get there, but we all need to do something. We need to do some hard work. We need to be purposeful in it. So you youth, you can have your youth. You can go hang around in coffee shops all day, whatever you all do all day. I mean, usually after my second cup, I'm ready to leave. You can wear skinny jeans. You can have different hairstyles. Put dog collars around your neck with those things. It doesn't make any difference. They're all preferences. You go enjoy yourself and your strength. And again, this is probably still going to bother me a little bit for a while, these skinny jean things. About a year ago, now, I told this joke the first session, but you know, I don't know, we'll see. So, about a year ago, I was having some trouble with some chronic Lyme disease. Well, for a long time I have, and I lost about an autoimmune disease that came up, and I lost about 35 pounds. So I'm thinking one day for breakfast, we're sitting at the coffee table, I'm talking to my wife a couple months ago, and saying, hey, Marianne, I think I'm gonna purchase a pair of skinny jeans. And she kind of gave me that look that guys know. When your significant other, your spouse, or your wife, if she gives you that look, you know it's an OMG moment, oh my gosh moment. And that you wish you could have retracted it, but you know, I couldn't. I go, okay, let her go. And she said, well, you know, if we've been hanging around for 50 years or so, we've always been able to work things out, whatever. You have the liberty to go buy some jeans, some skinny jeans. And she says, but here's the standard, the boundaries that I need to probably set. And she goes something like, you know how we always go to first service? I go, yeah. And she says, well, you can put on those skinny jeans if you want to, and you can keep going to first service. But if you wear them skinny jeans, I'm going to start going to second service. So she kind of put me in place, and I made the wise decision. No skinny jeans for me. In fact, for your mom that doesn't like jeans, just thinking of her today, no jeans. Because I like that box of fudge every Christmas, I guess. So here's the thing, it's simple. If you're going to be wise, here's what you're going to have to do. Ask for wisdom. We're going to talk about how we do that. And you need to consider getting a tattoo. And again, I am tattooless. For as many years as I've been here, I've been tattooless and not planning on subjecting myself to any harm or anything, but I like looking at a good tattoo. This is the tattoo. I refuse to trade what I want most for what I want in this moment. And that sentence, if it really becomes part of us, in every one of these three chairs, it's going to help us to jump over there and to stay there. If that becomes our lifestyle, if we start thinking that way a little bit differently, it'll certainly help us. And I don't have any deals on tattoos, so you just kind of on your own pay retail if you want that. Simple person, the cure is this. It's time. All they need is time to mature and go along the way and get some good counsel from parents and friends. And here's what they can't do. They can't be involved in the current of culture. They can't be knee-deep in the culture. They can still do something, but there's some things that they don't want. I would ask that you think about doing. And this question to me is a game changer. It'll save us time, energy, money. It could save you from your life. So here's the question. At every invitation, every opportunity, every decision that you come across, and every week, every day we have decisions to make. At every one of those junctures, you need to think about this. In light of my past experiences, because here's the deal, our pasts are all different. Our families of origins are different, our DNA is different, which has a genetic nudge to push us in certain directions, our genetics. So there's a whole host of things about our past that you can do some things based upon your past that I don't want to do if I want to be wise. So for example, if you have a drinking past that's been kind of jaded or challenged, you need to think about you might not be a person that should drink. Don't have to, it's a decision that you make, but the slope will be slipperier for you to get stuck in one of these chairs for a long time and suffer the consequences of reaping and sowing if you stay there. So again, it's a personalized question based upon our past experiences, our current circumstances. Our current circumstances are all different as well. where some of you are old like me, some of you are very young, you all across the lifespan, but our current circumstances are all different as well. So in light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what's the wisest thing for me to do at this juncture? And if you would say that in introspect, very heartfelt introspection about doing that, you'll come up on the right side of life most of the time, and you will land hanging around that wise chair. Second type of person is this: the fool. Again, please don't TP my house. I didn't come up with this thing. It's fool. Yeah. So here's the way the fool thinks: knows but does not care. Are you really going to do that? Yeah, I really don't give a fill in the blank any way you would like to, or your favorite friend or whatever. I just left it blank because I didn't want to get in trouble with the boss. So I left all those squiggly things. I don't care is their middle theme. None ya. It's none of your business. I know where this is going. Yeah, but it's fun. I know this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Many times, the person that sits in that chair, they know the consequences, but they just do not care. Solomon says, again, not Davy Downer, it's Solomon says, you are a fool, being foolish. Proverbs 26:11. I know it's probably not the cleanest proverb to pick, but it made sense to me. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. If you find yourself in this chair, like recycling the same thing, visiting the same thing in your life, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, you might want to get out of that chair and think a little bit differently about decisions that you make. Remember the last time that you drank and you were jailed, $5,000. Remember the last time you smoked weed. Remember your last boyfriend, young, living with parents, no job. Again, you look in your own personal life to see what's going on and then make your decision based on what's the best thing for you to do, the wisest thing. So we land up in that chair. Remember your last girlfriend? She was a fox, but ABC. But it's fun, you only live once. Proverbs 10:23, a fool finds pleasure in evil conduct. It is a sport to a fool to do mischief. Again, to introspect, your last DWI, last relationship, your last business adventure, your last gambling binge. Another thing I'd ask you to think about. Why do we continue to do the things we know we should not be doing? I think it's me included. It's kind of our constant challenge about that. I like to say that I'm on the wise chair all the time. My wife's here. She will not be bashful. She'll step up, you're lying, so I wouldn't dare disclose that. Many times we sit in that foolish chair and we just go, we know there's things in our life that we shouldn't be doing, and we stay there. And a few more slides down the road, I'm going to tell you what you really need to be careful of. So the fool's thought process is, it's my body, I will do what I want to, it's my life, I am hurting no one. It's my body, money, time, I can do nothing, whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I'm hurting no one. So along these lines here, we're really believing a lie. Well, the biggest lie right here in this seat, being a fool, is that I am hurting no one. Let's look at this proverb. We talk Proverbs 13:20. He who walks with the wise grows wise. If you want to become wise, in that chair there, hang around some wise people. You can't go wrong. I'm not saying that it needs to be a steady diet of wise people that you need to hang around, but it's certainly going to help. But a companion of fools suffers harm. So you can be a companion in many ways. You can be a mate, comrade, associate, partner, mother, father, husband, wife, brother, sister, employer, employee, pastor, leader. You can be hooked up as a companion in many, many different ways. So Proverbs is saying this to us. If you are the mother of or father of a person that makes foolish decisions, the proverb says you will suffer harm. Your children make foolish mistakes. You, as mom and dad, you can be the most righteous person on the planet. And as they make bad decisions, we as parents are going to suffer harm. So, same thing with a husband or wife. If you're a husband and you go out of the marriage vows, whatever, the wife is going to suffer, and vice versa. If you make these foolish decisions, all of our comrades or companions in life are going to suffer harm. I am hurting no one. I never meant to hurt them. I mean, many people I've talked to over the years in private practice that sit in the foolish chair, that they say they never meant to do harm, and I believe them. 90% of them, I believe them. I never knew the extent of what my misfortune and terrible mistakes have done to my husband, my wife, my family, all these kind of things. But nonetheless, it happens. You need to remember about a foolish person. If a foolish person does not care about their own bodies, they will not care about yours. If a foolish person does not care about their finances, they will not care about yours. If a foolish person does not care about their future, they're not going to care about your future. So the cure. For the simple, it's time. They're going to grow up. A fool, it's going to be adversity. It's the way a person learns in this chair, going through adversity. We don't have to, but it's choices that we make sometimes. I mean, like biblically it talks about that it rains on the good and the bad. Sometimes crap happens, and there's nothing we can do. But we don't want to be purposeful in our walk in this path we call life and not be purposely injurious to ourselves and others. And this is what's blinding the person in the foolish chair. Their foolishness blinds them from their selfishness. So, we correct the simple. If you go to correct them, to admonish, to give them some advice, they're not going to get you. You correct the fool, they're just going to ignore you, blow it off. But if you can, you want to be in a position where you can still whisper the truth to them. There's another little angle down the path that you can choose if you want to. Third chair. Now, this is the chair that I call the OMG chair. Oh my gosh. And I like to say, as we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, the narcissistic personality disorder, a diagnostic person with mental illness, if they're in that chair, up to 75% of the people that are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder are men. Not good. So the mocker is a fool on steroids. They're critical, they're condescending, they're very smart and bright. I mean, they walk into a room, and if you do an IQ on them, they're like way over the top. They control their world through criticism. Many times they're in abusive relationships where they're verbally abusive, sexually abusive, a whole bunch of different things. That's a narcissistic personality disorder. Quickly just scroll through that. I gotta keep moving here. There's a whole list of things that are on there, and you don't want to sit there. Just say that. Proverbs 13:1. A wise son heeds his father's correction, but a mocker does not listen to rebuke. I don't care if you're the pastor of a mocker or married to, or whatever, they do not listen to rebuke from anyone. Proverbs, whoever corrects a mocker invites insults. Whoever rebukes a wicked man incurs abuse. Do not rebuke a mocker, or he will hate you. Interesting. So the antidote. Simple as time, fool as adversity, mocker. This is Proverbs talking now. This is Solomon. He's saying in all his experience as a wise guy, this is what he penned that should happen. Drive out the mocker, and out goes strife, quarrels, and insults are ended. Interesting. He's probably professionally, the men and women that have sat on that chair, I get fired from the most. because they just are not open to making any changes. They just keep digging in, and they're not going to move at all. So, wisdom. We're going to quickly talk about the purpose of wisdom. Where's wisdom found? How do we get wisdom? What happens if we reject wisdom? Wisdom's purpose is for acquiring a disciplined and prudent life. Prudent life being defined as if you show good and careful judgment when handling practical matters, you're described as being prudent. Where's wisdom found? This is important. Hey, don't go to sleep in the next few minutes, and then we'll be out of here soon. On the heights along the way, this is where's wisdom found. On the heights along the way where the paths meet, she takes her stand. Beside the gates leading into the city, all the entrances, she cries aloud. To you, men, I call out. I raise my voice to all mankind. Think about all mankind. That's anybody on the planet. You're saved, you're unsaved, you're a meth addict, you're a drug addict. It doesn't make any difference. Wisdom isn't going to kick back and say, hey, you putz, I'm not going to let you in on this wisdom thing. I'm not going to let you know how to get on with this in the right way. It's right there that there will be no pushback at all. You who are simple are going to gain wisdom, or simple gain prudence. You who are foolish gain understanding. Listen, I have worthy things for you to say. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Again, there's no fault factor in it at all. You just come as you are. Kind of like salvation. For all you that smoke marijuana, you're involved in the wrong, it doesn't make any difference. I tell people all the time, just come as you are. Doesn't make any difference. It's waiting there for you. Just as you are with everything of your being, who you are. Benefits of wisdom. Wisdom will save you from wicked men, from the adulteress that would prolong your life many years, bring you prosperity, will win you favor and a good name in the sight of God and man. She's more profitable than silver and gold, yields better results than gold. Nothing you desire can compare to her. Are there consequences for rejecting wisdom? It's the one, really pay attention to this one. Because this should scare the living, fill in the blank. I'm going to fill it in with chair. It will scare the living chair right out from underneath you. Consequences for rejecting wisdom. Again, this is not God speaking. This is wisdom. God is immutable, doesn't change, accept you as you are. But this is wisdom calling what will happen to you if you stay in one of these chairs too long. Wisdom speaking. If you had responded to my rebuke, I would have poured out my heart to you and made my thoughts known to you. But since you rejected me when I called and no one gave heed when I stretched out my hand, since you ignored all my advice and would not accept my rebuke, I in turn will laugh at your disaster. I will mock when calamity overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, when distress and trouble overwhelm you. Again, this is wisdom speaking. Then they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but will not find me, since they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord. Since they would not accept my advice and spurned my rebuke, they will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes. It's kind of this operation of reaping and sowing. For the waywardness of the simple will kill you. The complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. So the thing about the principles of the path, we're all on it, all across the lifespan. Some saved, some not. But know that the principle of the path is working, of sowing and reaping. Sowing and reaping. And sometimes through that and the decisions that we make, we land up on some difficult chairs, according to Solomon. But there's hope if we're ready to listen. So the wise, they're learners, they seek understanding. are not afraid to listen to people, and they're always trying to get closer to the Heavenly Father. A couple more slides. Hang in there. I know the bladders are large, probably. Correct the simple, and they won't get you. Correct the fool, they will ignore you. Correct the mocker, and they're going to hate you. Correct the wise, and they're going to thank you. So here we go. I'm winding up. Ushers, get the radar passes ready. All right, so here's the summary. We're living in a constantly and changing culture where Americans think, work, love, play, vote, and learn differently. Here's one of the things I want you to think about when you make these decisions. The question, in light of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my future hopes and dreams, what's the wise thing for me to do? It isn't a legal standard. It's much better than that. Because you might be over 21 years old and going to bars and gambling, but it might not be the wisest thing for you to do. So you think about that. The wisdom chair, if you're on the wisdom chair, keep up the good work. And I really don't spiritually, as your brothers or whatever, I don't have much concern about people that hang out in the wise chair. Because even if they're young or wherever they are developmentally, they just listen to God's word, they're obedient to it, and they suffer hardly anything. Again, things do happen to all of us, the good and the bad, but they aren't purposely doing things. They're listening to the instructions from God our Father, who gives us guardrails in life. Guardrails in life. They're there to direct and protect us. As a state trooper, I've seen many people hanging on guardrails. And if it weren't for those guardrails, they'd been over the cliffs and they'd be dead. And same thing for us spiritually. We're all on this path. Listen to the guardrails, the instructions that we have, and save yourself, your family members, everyone that's hooked up with you. A lot of stuff. So the simple chair, here's the thing, just grow up. You're gonna be fine, that's all. You're gonna sort that out when the guy says he loves you, you're gonna maybe be thinking a little bit, maybe you'd start asking other people about that. Foolish chair, you start beginning to care. Mocker, scoffer, stop controlling others, thinking you're always right and that others are stupid. And here's another principle that we talked about. Don't sit on one of these three chairs too long, because we've learned, these are the words of wisdom. Wisdom says it's going to turn your back on you. And for me, and I wish I knew when that happened, because I was kind of a renegade growing up, actually. And if I would have known that on the 30th minute, or the 30th day being a fool, I'd be living up to the 29th day, 23rd hour, and I'd quickly get off that chair. That's the way I worked. But it didn't work that way. We just know that wisdom will turn its back if you're sitting on one of these chairs too long, not knowing when it's going to happen, and that wisdom says that you get turned over to reaping and sowing, reaping and sowing, and you're going to be harvesting probably some bad things. And just remember this about Archimedes' principle. We take a 50-pound boulder, big stone. Doesn't make any difference if it's a guy that's picking it up, a woman that's picking it up, a child. Doesn't make any difference about any variable, whatever nationality that they are. If they go out in their boat in Center City in summer, drop that boat or that boulder over the side of the boat in the water, it's going down to the bottom of the lake. Bar a miracle. If Jesus wanted to perform a miracle, he'd do that. It's the same thing with principles of the path. Every day, you and I, we're sowing. We're sowing financial decisions. We're sowing relational decisions. We're sowing all kinds of things. And what you sow, you will reap. You want corn? You plant corn. 100 days, you're going to have a harvest. You want some beans? Throw some beans. 60 days, you'll have a harvest. If you want to land in the wise chair, we need to plant some specific things to get there. And with that, Pastor Mike, I think I'm just going to, why won't you all read this last slide? I'm 3 minutes late. I'm probably going to have to do one-arm push-ups. It ain't happening. Why don't we, You all see that? Why don't we all say this together as we close up, as Pastor Mike comes? Don't be bashful. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is.